And it's a delight to visit your beautiful country, Guyana. And talking about visiting Guyana for so long, I'm glad we finally did it as Guillermo. Now, I really appreciate Omawali's presentation because he's talking about primary prevention. He asked that I speak about primary prevention, but I need to let you know that most of my life I've dedicated to looking at treatment research, how to make treatments better, particularly treatments for depressed adolescents. So I came to the area of suicide prevention and suicide work after working for, over 20 years or so in doing treatment studies with depressed adolescents, of which, of course, if you deal with depression, you're going to be dealing with suicide behavior. So he also talked about going more upstream, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the upstream and downstream. The story of the Convida project, or the program, and Convida is a topic that I will tell you about what that means. Convida means with life. Convida. That's how we baptized our project. But Convida also means I can te convido, or I invite you. So I invite you to share a cup of coffee with me. I te convido a un café. I invite you, or I share my life with you over this coffee. So it has a different meaning. So it's a sharing of a life experience. That's why we played with that term. So we focus on the study at the University of Puerto Rico. First-year students was the target population, who are more vulnerable than other students. Talk about program objectives, evaluation, and some of the conclusions and recommendations. So I get to them because I have 40 slides and 15 minutes. So let's move. So the upstream, downstream prevention, that's a useful metaphor and framework. Let's go to the next slide. Here we have what Omawali was talking about. Here we have primary and secondary prevention. Here's folks coming down into the river. They get told the water is very bad. It's very rough. Be careful. Don't go to the river. But some do come to the river. So here is where the primary prevention works. The downstream is when we see the cases of people drowning. And so to stop somebody from drowning, it's a whole different other set of skills or problems, because they're already either they're drowned or they're about to drown. So you have to jump in the water, you have to do all these things. Or you could put a barrier up here, or a barricade, so people don't get into the river. So that's the strategy of the upstream strategy. The downstream strategy, we're doing intervention, and it's much more costly. The next slide. This is another, it breaks it down a little bit. You have an area where you have, the health in the river of life. You have promotion, you have health education, we have prevention, and you can put some protective components so that people don't fall and drown, versus slipping them out or jumping in to get them out. Next slide. So that's when we talk about levels of prevention and intervention. We have universal, which used to be primary prevention. We have selective and indicated. We want to focus on the universal, and that's what our project essentially tried to do and did in one way or another. Next slide. The Convida story. We basically developed a program to work on a suicide prevention plan at the University of Puerto Rico, which is about 20,000 students. But we were focusing on first-year students who are the ones that are generally much more vulnerable and susceptible. Third cause of violent death in males are as was 15 to 24 years of age in Puerto Rico. Second cause of death among college students in the U.S. And there are about 1,100 suicides in the U.S. universities every year. In 2015 in Puerto Rico, which is it's probably much higher than that because it's not very good, 245 suicides. Next. We want to foster a culture of awareness and commitment toward suicide prevention. We wanted to hit the whole campus and to infuse the campus with a whole different way of thinking about suicide. And so that means a cultural change. We wanted to reduce suicide behavior and increase suicide awareness by developing a set of strategies that impact institutional policy. That meant dealing with the chancellor, dealing with the protocols for how a crisis is dealt with at the university. We wanted to change the culture and attitudes that foster stigma on mental health treatment, because we know that stigma is a major problem, so people don't go for help or don't talk to somebody about their ideas about killing themselves or their ideas about death. Whoops, no, go back for a minute. And we wanted to support help-seeking behaviors, to go out and get help. So the other thing about me that I don't do a project unless I evaluate it. So there's an evaluation component, and we hopefully we'll be able to get to that. Because we then wanted to evaluate whether there was institutional change in attitudes, and also change, of course, but there wasn't any money in the grant to do that, so we had to put the money up for us to do the evaluation component. So then we had there was a protocol, a mental health protocol, on how to deal with crises, but and the protocol we wanted to develop, we wanted to refine it and institutionalize it. So there were education and awareness materials, there was capacity building activities, and the capacity building activities had to do with identification, referral, intervention, and treatment. So how do you deal with that at a university where you have relatively limited resources? And then we also actually were able to get a corporation who donated some of their services to do the media blitz that we wanted to do at the university. Next. So we had a steering committee, we developed an institutional plan. The protocol was in its 10th revision in this committee. It would never get out of the committee, so we infiltrated that committee so that we could move the project along. Literally had to infiltrate the committee to get the project moving and pass the committee so that it would go to the chancellor. Because we had a flow chart, what is it that you're supposed to do? And there were so many people that want to get involved. You can't have that many people. So we refined that protocol, we also wanted to do something that I learned when I was in California, working at a hospital, and they had simulations of crises. This was at San Francisco General Hospital. So I wanted to do a simulation of and we got an actor, we gave them a script, and the actor presented a mental health crisis. But then, of course, when we got the community and the folks involved in security, personnel, who was going to do all that, they said, what do you mean you want a simulation? They're going to tell us when you're having when we're supposed to respond. No, you're not going to know that. It's going to happen between these 3 months. So that was a whole other culture shift that we had to play with. We did the simulation, and we'll tell you about that and how that went on who responded and so on and so forth. And the external steering committee was involved with folks from other universities and other agencies that were connected to us so we could use them as also support. Next slide. Prevention team. So we had an awareness team. So we had different teams, an awareness, a training, a case management, and a response and follow-up team. The awareness team was involved in the media blitz and in inundating different aspects of the university, and particularly targeting first year, but of course most of the students learned about it because we piggybacked on most of the cultural activities that the dean of students was doing. And so if they had, we have an event called the Justas. Justas are like sporting events where different universities compete. And so at the Justas, we went to the Justas and we brought the team to promote the message of awareness, and that will tell you about that briefly. We did a number of training activities with everybody on campus, just about everybody. Case management.